I'm so happy to have the opportunity to have Zuzanna Bućko here with me today. And Zuza, thank you so much for joining me. You're over in Poland. Can you tell me what time it is over there for you?
Yes, thank you for inviting me. It's noon, so we have like I think 6 hours of difference.
Yes,
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
Yay. And what is the weather like there? We're in summer. What is the temp and what does it get like there in summer?
So today is sunny actually, so it's nice and warm. But I live in the mountains and I live quite high, so it's always a bit colder. So for me, it's not perfect because I love when it's very hot, but I was born in Poland, so what can I do?
That's cool. I've never been. I really, really want to visit Poland. It looks so beautiful. All the pictures that I see looks absolutely amazing. Did you grow up in that same community that you currently live, or where in Poland did you grow up?
So I grew up in a smaller town that is also in the mountains. It's not that far from where I live now, but now I live like 2 hours from my hometown. So yeah, so definitely the landscape is quite different, I think, than where you live. So we have a lot of you know green landscape and yes, very like yes, like I live in I usually say that I live in the middle of nowhere now because I live in a place that and here there's nothing. There's nothing here. There's only our hotel because I run a hotel and yes.
Nice. What type of hotel is it? Is it something, so you're a yoga teacher. Do you teach yoga at the hotel that you work at, or are you doing a little bit of everything? Do you manage it, the center?
So I do a little bit of everything. I manage it. So we started running this place 2 years ago, and we wanted to make it like an artistic place because me and my boyfriend we used to work in theater. So we wanted it to be an artistic space, like creative one. But then when I started teaching, it developed into first a vegetarian restaurant, which we had to close, and now it's more like a yoga space, yoga room. So we have a space that we use for different types of gatherings, meetings, and I also teach yoga.
Nice. Do people, is it something that they are coming specifically to see and practice with you, or is it more of a people are just passing through the town and then you are happen to offer yoga classes for them?
So it depends. There are many people that come and that see that, oh, there's yoga here. So maybe I will try it. So for many people, it's like perfect possibility to just try it and see what it actually is, yoga. And we also host like retreats. So there are also people coming with different teachers, and the teachers like run their own retreats in
Nice.
our space. Yes, and I organize my retreats also.
Very cool. You mentioned that you had a vegetarian restaurant, but that you had to
Mhm.
close it. What happened there?
So we started our hotel in COVID. So it was
Mm,
very rough in the beginning, and we wanted to have a restaurant because we thought it's a like perfect space for a restaurant. Uh, but actually, the situation with the war that started later and everything, the economical crisis that we have in Poland, like it just killed our restaurant. And
no.
also, our, Polish society is not very progressive in that matter, I would say. So I think we need some more time to run this kind of business.
I understand. Well, I applaud you for paving the way and being a pioneer in
Yeah.
progressive yoga and vegetarian cafe culture. That's pretty
Yeah.
amazing. Can
I
you
think we were actually the only vegetarian restaurant in the mountains. I'm not sure, but like in Poland, it's something what people were really not very pleased because of that, but it depends on who.
I can imagine my grandparents are from Poland and they were not cooking anything close to vegetarian when I was around them as a kid. Um, so I can imagine that. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got introduced to yoga and what your story is in relation to your journey into finding yoga?
Yes, yes, of course. So, the beginning of my story with yoga is quite problematic, considering what I do now, because I started doing yoga to lose weight, as I think many people do. So I just was looking for some kind of activity because I had like body image issues, and I was in not the best time of my life when I wanted to lose my weight. So I started with fitness, but then I tried Pilates, and then I thought maybe yoga. So as it I think quite often goes, I like got attracted to yoga. I got attracted to the philosophy of yoga and everything that considers, this our practice. And then I found an amazing Ashtanga yoga teacher, and I practiced Ashtanga for 2 years. But in the middle of my path, my yogic path, I just felt too, how to say that, I felt that Ashtanga wasn't for my body, that it was too, I would say, too hard, too competitive. I was too much in my ego that told me what should I do every day. So I got to the point where I didn't really feel the pleasure of the practice, and I didn't really feel like it's fun, and I felt it's like I need to do it every day. So
Yes.
it was a very body kind approach. I don't tell. I don't like to tell or say that it's like for everybody, like every Ashtangi is like that. But it was in my case, like my
Yeah,
body wasn't ready for this kind of physical effort.
I understand.
So I wanted to change something. I needed to change something, and then I also felt that it's like the container of Ashtanga was too strict for me. That I needed um, more freedom. Also because I feel that my body proportions aren't like perfect for Ashtanga. That I didn't feel my best on the mat. So I started to search for something different. And then
Nice.
I found Awakening Yoga Academy from Seattle, and I started practicing with them.
Is this via an online
Yes,
practice?
yes,
Cool.
yes,
Can
yes.
you say that again? It's called Awaken Yoga and they're in Seattle.
Yes, they're in Seattle. They have their studio that's called Commune Studio.
Cool.
Yes,
What is that?
it's Patrick Beach and Carling Harps. And I found them, I think, on Alo Moves, where when I was like looking for inspiration, and then I found that they have their own studio, and they have also their own like academy that teaches teachers.
Nice. Nice.
Yes.
Can you explain a little about the philosophy of that particular school and how that spoke to you?
Yes, so they're very inclusive, I would say, and their approach is more about this thought that everybody is different and that we should think that we don't have to fit to the asana, but the asana needs to fit to our body, our situation, the day we're in, because also every day is different and every day we feel something different. And I really liked also the idea that you need to focus on your inner teacher first, and not what the teacher tells you.
Mm.
So this really resonated in me because I felt, oh my God, I can listen to myself, because when I was practicing Ashtanga, I was very into the idea that what the teacher says is like, I need to listen to that. It's
Yes.
everything,
Yes.
Um,
I can attest to that.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
So when I changed it, it was like mind blowing for me. And I felt that my body opened and I feel much more safe now on the mat.
Nice. Wonderful. Do you, when you, because you're teaching in such a, it sounds like remote location,
Mhm.
and obviously it sounds like a variation of either people that are specifically coming for a retreat or a specific teacher, and or people that are just kind of moving through. What kind of response do you receive from new students in relation to your idea? I mean, I think your idea is, there's a lot of us that are thinking similarly, but sometimes I don't know that it's like the modern way of thinking, or the common way of thinking about yoga. What type of response are you receiving from teaching in this direction?
So when I teach here in my hotel, I very often hear um, like the feedback that, oh, this is yoga. I thought yoga is just stretching, or I thought yoga is just sitting in silence and doing nothing. Or other way, I sometimes hear that I thought yoga is a bit like fitness,
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah.
So I really like to introduce yoga as a bit of meditation, a bit of breath work, a bit of asana. Like I like to introduce everything step by step and little by little. And I think it's not very common, like for example in gym or in fitness centers in Poland. So when people come to me, they're like, they don't really know if they like it. I think sometimes,
Mhm. Yeah.
but it's something interesting for them. And because I also teach online, so when I teach people that come to me that know yoga, they also have this feeling of freedom, because they very often, for example, very often someone asks me a question, what should I feel here in this asana, or in this pose, and I always respond, what do you feel? I should ask you that,
Yeah.
because it's not I believe in yoga, I'm not the person who should tell my student what they should feel. That it's like their experience. And I like focusing on their experience, and they're really shocked when they hear that from me, because they're like, you should tell me. because
Yeah.
they used to this type of narrative, I would say.
Yeah. That's so interesting. How far away from Warsaw are you?
Oh, from Warsaw, it's like I think 7 hours. It's
Wow.
far from Warsaw because I live like very close to Czech border.
Mm,
So we're like 20 minutes from Czech border. I actually live closer to Prague because I have like 2 hours to Prague.
got it. And would you say yoga is popular in Poland?
Yes, I would say that definitely. It's
Yeah.
it's it's popular, but there are a lot of Iyengar studios, and I would say some Ashtanga.
Yeah.
This is popular. We don't have, for example, hot yoga and Bikram yoga. It's really
That never
not
took off.
hype. Yes, I think it's because it's hard to, or it's like I just assume it's expensive to make a studio for hot
Mm,
yoga in
mm.
Poland because we don't have hot. Yeah,
Right, right. In a cold climate, it takes a lot of energy to generate
yeah, probably
that
yes.
time of external heat. Do you can you talk a little bit about what you made mention of two things, the the war that's going on in Ukraine and then the economic crisis that's occurring in Poland. I'm curious, can you tell me like economically what is happening? Is it a very challenging time there or what are you going through there?
Yeah, so this year is like a tiny bit better, I would say. That it starts getting better, but yeah, but the inflation is like terrible, and the political situation is also not the best, I would say. We have a very conservative government, and I don't really think it will change soon.
Mm,
So there's a lot of I would say corruption, and not very interesting, or I would say not very
yeah.
nice situations, and like the war situation is like escalating, all the tensions, and it's quite hard. Although when I live here in this remote place, I don't experience this so much.
Mm,
I experience more like economical. We experience the
yeah.
economical issues.
Is the majority of the Polish population against what's happening in Ukraine, or do you feel like they're because I guess maybe what we can see in a lot of different countries is that there's like such extreme polarization between um, our ideologies. And so I'm curious if does it feel like everybody in Poland is like, oh, this is horrible, this is right in our backyard, or is
Mhm,
there people in Poland that are pro the
mhm.
war? Because I mean, we see all sorts of crazy stuff here. Like we're you think, how could someone actually be for something? And they're like so for it. And this extreme polarization. Are you experiencing the same thing there?
So concerning the war, I wouldn't say so, because it's so close that it's hard to be pro, because it's like
Mhm.
almost here. There were some incidents on our borders, so I think people are very scared of that, and were very very afraid that it will like spread
Yep.
to our country. And in the beginning of war, we, as a society, I would say, we were very helpful, and many refugees from Ukraine live here still. So in the beginning, the response was actually, I would say, surprisingly good from our society. Now it depends on the situation, because for a long run it's never colorful, I would say. So
Mm,
of course
mhm.
the conservative, I would call it this way, part of our society doesn't really like them staying here in Poland.
I see. I get that. I mean, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's
Yes,
not.
and we are a very polarized society, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, there is 50% of people of very conservative, and 50% of people more liberal, but the other 50% goes voting.
Yes.
So.
Is Poland a very religious society? And then I'm
Yeah.
curious if being a yoga teacher, do you need to tiptoe around introducing something that I know sometimes people might feel like it's at odds with their
Mhm.
religious or philosophical background. What is that feeling like there?
Yes, so we're a very Catholic society. Although I think that people that come to me know my, or they aware of my point of view, and they aware of what I think about the political situation, and about the world and the religion. So I don't really think that I attract the people of different opinions to my classes. But I've heard, for example, that asanas are satanic alphabet, something like that.
Mm.
They are the way to communicate with Satan, for example.
Mhm.
And there are also priests in Poland that tell people not to go to yoga because it's like, Satan and everything like that. So there are people coming to me and saying, I want to practice asana or physical. I want to practice in physical way, but I don't want to meditate
Yes.
because I can't meditate because my priest told me that I can't meditate.
Got it.
And I also experienced like people walking out from my class because I end my class with meditation. So and it's okay if you don't want to, you don't need to,
Yes.
but I don't feel the need to like not do it because I believe meditation is very a state that is very similar to prayer in church, like when you're a person of faith. So I don't really see a lot of difference. I think we do the same, but with different background or different context, I would say.
I agree, Zuza. Do Can you talk a little bit about your journey with your Instagram handle as Body Kind Yoga? And can you speak a little bit about and I heard you mention that you're like you feel like you're an activist in relation to promoting being thinking of ourselves instead of as like being whole already, as opposed to measuring us up against this model of what fit culture looks like. Can you
Yes.
talk a little bit about what your dream and vision is in that direction?
Yes, of course. So when I started my account, I was like, I just wanted to tell people what I always wanted to hear when I started doing yoga. So I wanted to hear the message that was far from fit culture and far from also diet culture, because I think that diet culture is very into our yoga world. And because I also like experience yogic, I tried yogic detoxes and things like that, that didn't really help me. I would say they made my relationship with my body and with food even more complex and even more troublesome. So I wanted to share a message that was not like associated with fit culture and diet culture. That was my aim. It was also the beginning of me going into intuitive eating. So I was really into that.
Nice.
And,
You said
and
intuitive eating. Is that what you said?
yes,
Cool.
intuitive eating. Yeah. And this like it happened that many people that came to me that were attracted with what I said, they were people that felt excluded from yoga world. So they were people that wanted to do yoga but didn't really feel in the right place because as in Poland, I think, and around in different countries, I think many like fancy yoga studios are like dominated by capable bodies, young beautiful bodies. And I'm not against against those people. It's not like that, of course, but I think we should have the space for everyone and for everybody.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yes, yes,
Agreed.
and then I met many people online on Instagram that also run, for example, intuitive eating accounts, and I met my friend who has an account promoting body positivity from a men's perspective.
Nice.
So yes, and I work with them now, so it's really.
Wonderful.
Yes, so it's really nice.
Can you explain intuitive eating or intuitive um, eating? Sounds pretty obvious to me what that might entail, but can you explain that a little bit further, please?
Yes, of course. So I'm not an expert, I'm not. I don't consider myself an expert. I'm more like I promote the idea, and every time I redirect to the people that are actually experts in this matter.
Yes.
But of course, it's this idea. It's an anti-diet idea that comes from the discovery that when you're in this loop of diets and restrictions, it doesn't like you can't get into in any good place. You only restrict your
Mm,
body image. Problems get more and more complex and more hard to solve. So it's
that's
the
so
idea that
interesting.
diets don't work.
Yeah.
Simply, they
Yeah.
don't work. So what can we do? And what can we do is to have our relationship with food better. So there are different steps, and like the most important is not to restrict. And the
Mm,
idea when you stop restricting, it's like it's not that you will eat pizza every day or you will eat sweets every day. You will have cravings for everything because everything is fine, everything is food. And it's also the idea not to make food bad or good. And we tend to do that in our world.
I know it's so fascinating, right? Because I've
Yes.
definitely, pushed myself into different diet situations, and I find it fascinating that you're saying the idea of if you're coming from a place of restriction, what that actually does to our psyche. You're right. I mean, it really is a fairly not a happy place, is it?
Yes, yes. And I'm also not an expert in Ayurveda, but I remember when I found Ayurveda, I thought it's amazing the idea that there is like different food is better for different people, right? That
Yeah.
every person should eat something different to feel good. And then we have those detoxes that tell us to drink only green juices. And it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
disturbing for me now.
I hear you. Do you feel like you have to constantly come up with affirmations and different things to like tell yourself and or to remind yourself that you are okay and that how you are right now is actually okay and that a restriction isn't going to then all of a sudden make our lives like perfect all of a sudden? Do you still battle that a little bit or are you in a place where you've been keeping it going long enough that you feel like it just is coming more natural for you?
So I would say I'm not in the perfect place because I consider myself still on my path to intuitive eating and to feeling good with my body and what I publish on Instagram and what I do on Instagram is also like I sometimes laugh that it's kind of therapy that I write about things that I also feel they are problematic for me
Yes.
because it's not like I don't step on my mat and I have this ego going on that tells me what I should do today and my body says something different. So I'm still in progress, I would say, and because also because of my health situation, because as I write on Instagram, also I suffer from IBS. So this is also very problematic when you want to be physically capable and you love your practice, but then your body is like shutting you down and tells you now you won't do it because you feel pain and you have to deal with the pain
Mm.
and you have to like do something to not feel bad about yourself, right?
I can you help me understand IBS a little bit more? Is that something that you have had? When was the first time that you remember experiencing that? Was it something when you were a child or is it something more recent?
So it's something more recent because I've never had problems. I think the situation that, like my, I would say, work situation and everything that happened during pandemic, and yes, like those 3 last years were quite rough, and to that I added like physical, very hard practice, and my body was like, no, I
Mm.
I sign off. I don't want to do that.
I sign off.
And yes, something like that. And I started experiencing like huge pain.
Mm.
Uh, and I was, for a long time, I didn't know what that is actually. And then I got this information that it's IBS. So, from the doctor you hear, just you will live with that. You need to figure it out how to live with that, because it's like a nervous system that can't cope with everything that's happening, and then it affects the digestive system. It's just
Yes.
like so.
Is it a little bit of something where they just kind of say it's in your head, and or you have to just manage your stress and hopefully that will solve
Yes,
cure
yeah,
the or yeah.
yeah. So there are, like, every person has different history and every person has different situation. But in my case, it's like it's from my head and from stress that I experienced.
Mm.
So yes, so I had to do something to distress myself, and it was very funny because I was doing yoga, I was drinking green juices, and I was like, and now I'm sick. Why?
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
everything that
Yes.
shouldn't make me feel this way.
Yes.
Yes.
I can relate, Zuza. It's so
Yeah.
fascinating, isn't it, when you think you're putting all of the pieces in the right order to fit into what we think is going to be like the answer, and then after a few years of it, we look and go, "Was I doing it actually the opposite of what I needed
Yeah.
to do?"
Yes. Yes,
Life,
yes.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yes,
I
and that
understand.
was also the moment when I had to change something, because otherwise my body wouldn't let me do what I was doing. And
Yeah,
that,
I
yeah.
understand. I understand. Do you have people that are coming to you and seeking a solution for their, say if I have IBS and I see that you're communicating some level of support and or just letting people know, hey, this is what I'm going through. Are you having people that are coming to you and asking for advice and or a solution?
So definitely I attract people that have some kind of issues, like body issues, health issues.
Okay. Yeah.
So I would say they come to me for an advice. Of course, I'm not a doctor, and I don't give medical advices,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
the advice I give is to be more body kind and more body aware, and
Yeah.
not to be always in what we want and what we strive for, but in what we feel now and what we can do to feel better,
Yeah.
simply.
Nice. Do you have a specific um suggestion? Like say if I'm going into my head like, "Oh boy, wow, I'm putting on weight. This has to change. Okay,
Mhm.
tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to be really good. I'm only going to drink water or whatever." Do you do you have a protocol and or a certain method or steps or certain things that you do when you start to catch yourself going into that space? Is there anything that you recommend and or could suggest for those of us that are feeling that way?
So a huge change for me that helped me was to unfollow everyone that is like from diet culture
Mm,
and film culture,
mhm.
and to start get around people that feel the same and think the same.
That's smart.
So yes, it's very helpful because it's not the problem that, being fat or being big or being plus size, any word that you want to use. I consider a word fat as a neutral word. Um, so it's not bad. It's just that we don't see that on TV or we don't see that on social media. So when we see that, we think, oh, it's something different. But
Mm,
when you start, like, I follow a lot of like very diverse people. And then when I follow them, I stop having those intrusive thoughts about me and about my appearance and how I look.
yeah.
So I think this support group and support community that I try to also build on my account is very helpful.
Nice. That's good advice. Can you explain a little bit, like the last time you had a chance to get to practice like hatha yoga and or like asana yoga? Can you give me a little insight into how you approach it and what type of poses you enjoy practicing and or like what your practice is like?
Mhm. Okay, so I practice vinyasa
Uh-huh.
style. I like I really like a diversity in my practice. So from Ashtanga, it was like every day very strong every day. And now I like to have like strong and fast vinyasa practice one day, and like yin yoga another day, and another day more like hatha style, a bit slower, less dynamic. Then I like, some mobility practice. So I really enjoy diversity, and I feel it makes my body really just feel good
Yeah,
because I feel the balance in my body.
nice. I saw that well, obviously you speak English very well. Clearly you speak Polish. And and then I saw on your Instagram account that you offer classes in Spanish. Is that true?
Yes, I mean, I speak Spanish
Uh-huh.
because I was studying Spanish,
Mhm.
and it's like the best language for me. And I love Spain and I love being there. So
Nice.
so yes, I hope in the future I will have more Spanish connections.
Is there
more
a is there a fourth language too?
I speak a bit German, but it's very stressing me out speaking German. Always, it's like in Poland we learn English or German at school. So now English and German or something like French. And German is because of our complicated history and everything. So we associate this language not very positive, not with positive,
I
uh,
understand.
emotions and things. So I always wanted to learn German, but I understand, but I can't speak, I would
Got
say.
it. Is it almost like is it like looked down on if you live in Poland and you learn German? Is that something where it's like, why would you be learning German? You shouldn't learn that language. Is there a little bit of that in the Polish culture?
um no, I wouldn't say that. It's just hmm, it's very complex because we need to learn German because many Polish people, like many Poles, go to Germany and work, and they work there.
Yeah.
So it's very useful to know German
Yes.
in my country. Mm, but yes, definitely we don't want to learn it.
Mm,
We have this feeling that we don't want to because of the history that the war history and
yeah.
the things that happened before.
I understand that. I mean, that must exist all over the world, right? Because I mean, we have a little bit of that going on here in US because people are like, everybody should be speaking English. And if someone doesn't take the time to learn English, and there's that sort of aggressive
Mhm.
friction of like, you know, because there's people from everywhere here, and there is a little bit of that too. It might be a different flavor of that, but what about when you go to Prague? Can you speak Czech as well, or can you?
No, no,
It's
I don't
completely different,
speak.
right? Like completely different. Huh?
It is very different. I mean, I can't speak Czech, but when I go there, I understand. We can understand each other. When people from Poland speak Polish and Czech people speak their language, we can understand each other somehow. Like in basic situations, like when you want to order something or talk about the weather or something like that. We can communicate. Yes, but it's their language is very funny for us, and I think our language is funny for them.
I try to pronounce your Instagram name in Poland. Can you say that word for me, please?
Yes, it's ciałożyczliwa yoga.
Awesome. I'm gonna have that in the link so we can just click on it and not have to. I
Yes.
won't try to repeat that one. And then can you just say a few sentences in Polish just so I can hear it? You can say
Um,
anything. You could just talk about yoga for a little bit. I love language, and so I just to hear it from me, I really appreciate. Like I don't know if you're like thinking like what should I actually say, but we won't even know.
yes,
No.
yes. But can you give me some kind of question so that I can? It will
Yes.
be easier for
Yes.
me.
Can you talk about the difference between Warsaw and where you are in the mountains?
Okej. Więc Warszawa to duże miasto, to stolica, a ja mieszkam w Spalonej, która jest tuż przy granicy. Jest nic tutaj nie ma prawie na odludziu. Są same lasy i przyroda i góry, więc
Beautiful. I remember my grandparents speaking it, and so that's why I just every time, every now and again, I like to when I meet
yeah.
people that speak Polish, I'm like, just to hear it, it's like it almost rings a bell somehow. That's
Mhm.
cool. Thank you. Is
Problem.
it, so where do you like? What is your dream and ambition moving forward? Do you plan to stay where you are, and would you like to live the rest of your life like where you are in that part of Poland, or what are some of your dreams and aspirations in relation to the work that you're doing?
Okay. A very complicated question for me. I don't know if
I
I
don't, it's
can.
hard for it. It's a hard question for everybody to answer, right? Because they all sound
Yes.
like, what do I want to do? Oh, I mean, I'm just trying to get by right now. Like, what are you talking about? But I think it's important
Yes.
to dream a little bit.
Yes, of course. It's just very difficult for me because we live here, and I mean, me and my boyfriend we live here in the hotel, and everyone that comes here says like, "Oh, it's such a beautiful place. It's so amazing living here. It's like it's a paradise, you know." For you, probably it would be because it's like a different landscape, and it's we have a wonderful view from our balcony. But the reality is when you live here and you see this view every day, like you get used to that, and you live it at work. So there's always someone that wants something from you, and there are like million of problems. And yes, it's not an easy situation. It's not always like you think it may be. So definitely I have dreams of not being here the whole time. So in the future I would love to spend some time here, of course, but also live maybe, for example, 2 months each year in Spain and be there because I really feel it's a place that charges me,
Yeah,
charges my soul because
nice.
it's an amazing place to be in. And yoga wise, I'll be starting my online studio, so I will publish every month new practices, and I hope that more people can practice with me, like online from Poland.
Nice, nice. That's cool. Can you tell me what is winter where you are snowy, just snow-covered mountains, like
Yes, yes,
and a long winter, like
very
what
long
is
winter.
okay.
Yes,
And so
very long
maybe
winter.
Spain in the winter? Is that what I was
So where I live, we have winter from it starts in November and it ends in like different, even in March.
Yeah.
So it's like a long time. And then there are months when the weather is like cold or it's like windy and gray. I'm just over,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's an exaggeration, but I'm the person that doesn't like Polish winter, and I'm also always like, I don't like this. It's,
Uh
you know, so we actually have, I would say, 2 months or 3 months of like good weather.
yeah.
So
Which is
in
right now. I'm guessing right now, yes.
yes, it's
Yes.
now. It will be like June, July, and August. So those are
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
warmer months, I would say. Yes, so that's why for me, like for the kind of person I am, it's very hard to have like 9 months of coldness and and.
I hear you. Well, I'll have to reach out to you in the middle of winter to do this again. I'll try my best to cheer you up.
Yes. Yes, definitely. But we have perfect places to go for skiing and
Mm,
to do different kind of winter activities. So
yeah,
people
I
enjoy
bet.
that.
You know, I love to travel, and when I was young, or when I got out of high school, I started traveling, and when I started going international, I really appreciated hearing what other people thought about the states and people and America, US, because I was just in my little US bubble, and when I got out of it, I was like, huh, wow, that's so fascinating because all we hear about is news here. We're not a very like internationally news orientated culture. And when I lived in Australia for a little while, and I found in Australia there was like I was getting news from Indonesia, and I was hearing news about what was going on in Europe, and then I was getting all these different stories, and I thought, gosh, man, when I'm in the States, I just never really even know about what's happening outside of this little bubble. And so I'm not trying to get you to say something that would like, offend anybody, but I'm really curious what the how we look from your angle. You can say something that would, I'm not worried about you can offend me, or I won't take offense at you saying anything, but I'm just curious how we look from the European angle.
Mm. So I mean Europe is like very diverse, I would say. So I would assume that every country has different attitude towards United States. But from my perspective, like from Polish perspective, from a perspective of a person that grew up in times when, I was born in 95. So actually it was the time when everything that was Western started to come into Poland, because we were after we were in the middle of transformation, I would say. So for me, it's like, this big world, and everything that's good comes from America and from United States. And it's like, when I was growing up, I was dreaming about living in New York. I was like, I will live in New York. So it just says, well, uh, how to say that, mm, what is our like imaginary
Mm.
concept of
Yeah.
your country,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so and I still feel like that. I mean, I think when you live in the country like Poland, you need to be interested in what's going on around the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, definitely, United States were always something interesting, something I wanted to know more about, and very fascinating. We really want to go there for a longer period of time and visit many
Yeah.
places.
Yeah.
Because we've always like we grow in a world when you hear about it and you listen about what's there, what's interesting there, what you can see there. And the whole cinematography that we watch is of course from United States, so you're surrounded by that, but you never experience it
Mm,
unless you go there.
that's so
So
interesting.
yeah, so we definitely want to go, and but it's expensive for us,
Eek.
so we need to wait. um
I
yes,
appreciate that,
but
Zuza.
it's really amazing that we live in a times where we can like connect, and I can practice online with teachers from
Yes.
United States, so
Yeah.
it's like, oh my god.
I know. I think this is so incredible, to be honest, to be able to just, well, first of all, thank you for being so open about meeting with me, being that, we just had a very brief interaction through social media. And I think that, that's what I love about our current technology, that you and I can just like meet up and see each other so far apart in the world. I think that this can foster, like unity.
Yeah,
I think it's possible that we can all, I believe it's possible that we can all get along
yeah,
globally. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's one of my dreams. And I think I think it's incredible that well, A, that you were open to meeting like this. And I do agree, like we can actually like transcend space and time now, in some respects. So but I do appreciate you saying that or just hearing that, because I think I have this perspective where I feel like globally, I don't know how people look at us. Like I sometimes think people think we might be cool, and other times I think people might think we're monsters. Like, and so it's a very interesting. So to hear your perspective is really, I like it. Thank you. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
but we're always very concerned who's the president of the United States, because we
Interesting.
feel like it's a big deal for us, and
Yep.
it matters.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So, can you give me a little snapshot? I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're getting close to our hour mark here. You said it was round about midday. Can you give me a little bit more snapshot into what the rest of your day will look like in terms of your like routine and like just the nitty gritty of like what you actually get to do today?
Yes. Oh, yeah, yes, of course. So actually, Mondays and Tuesdays are like days that I do a lot of things with yoga. So today I will record a practice for the online studio, and I will also prepare myself, because on on Wednesday I have like a webinar on fat yoga. So I will speak with two amazing people about practicing yoga as a plus size body, and about inclusive yoga and all that stuff.
Nice.
I say
Very
yeah.
cool.
So I need to prepare for that because it's very stressful.
That's so cool, Zuza, to think that I mean, I like what you're doing because I I think it's amazing that people would be repelled by yoga because of the imagery of only really thin people doing it. And or like a lot of times we see the pictures and it's very, and if we look back, say, to India, often a lot of the imagery we saw was of very thin men practicing, wrapped up in these incredibly complicated sort of positions.
Mm.
Yeah, that would be like, if I am unable to approach that, then I think, well, I can't do yoga then, right? And we hear that all the time from all over the place. Like, I can't go to yoga because I'm not flexible. So I like that. I really appreciate what you're doing. I think it's important.
Thank you.
Can you explain a little bit more about some of the feedback you receive from people when you take this approach and start kind of cultivating a space where you're saying, look, no, it's actually possible for you to do this. Let me demonstrate for you and show you or encourage you. Can you tell me a little bit like what sort of response or some of the maybe comments you might have received from students and or people you practice with that have given you encouragement and made you feel like I am doing what I need to do and this is my path?
Yeah. So definitely I experience gratefulness for like creating the space where they can feel safe and where they don't have to talk about celery juice and uh, practicing yoga to to
Celery juice.
I
So when someone brings up celery juice, you just go, "Oh no, not again."
Yes, yeah. Actually, celery. I don't have anything against the juices because I love drinking juices. But first, not to lose weight, and second, no, celery juice is a big no-no for me. So, but I always I think that it's funny, and I say that as a joke. But then I go to a studio to practice yoga, and lately there was this conversation about juice from parsley, and I was like, no, parsley, why? Why? you know.
Now the celery doesn't match up. Parsley is the new cure-all juice that's gonna like fix everything. I'm guessing though, from the IBS perspective, couldn't celery just wreck you? Like just drinking straight celery juice for days? Like, couldn't that be, from what I understand, that could be really challenging on the stomach.
Yes, I think so. But for me, this is like the taste of the celery is it's impossible for me to try. Yes, but it's just an example of how diet culture like comes and like does this to everything, to our all situations, yoga situations, and just I think when you start being mindful of how, for example, plus size people may feel when they stand there and they listen to this conversation about losing weight, and there's a girl that is super thin and she talks about how she needs to lose weight, and you're like, come on, please stop.
Because
So,
we see that too, right? No matter how skinny we get, how thin we get, we
yes, it's
still
never
have to
enough.
go. It's
Yes.
it's so fascinating.
Yes, and
It's
it's like
important.
it's your freedom. You can want it's okay to want to lose weight, like it's your body, you choose.
Yes.
But I think it's very important to not to create the situations that are like that create discrimination to other people, like to other bodies.
Yeah.
So when there's a person that posts on Instagram only like very fancy asanas and very fancy poses, and it's fine, you can do that. It's great for you. But by showing only this, you show that yoga is only this.
Mm.
And I can do a headstand, but maybe I can show a step before headstand, how you can prepare for headstand for a person that doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So
Great point, Zuza. Yeah, to be encouraging it's like holding someone's hand and just
yes,
come with me here. Let me just show you this for a second versus
yeah.
whipping them to follow.
Yes, and I think it's like for the teachers, we very often say that it's obvious that it's not about body performance. But then when I see what people post on social media and how they create their accounts, it's like, really, the performance is not the most important for you. Sometimes I
Mm.
doubt it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's funny, right just then I was just trying to think back into my past with so both my wife and I did go take Bikram yoga teacher training in Los Angeles in 2000 and 2000. And I went in 2000, her in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa, talk about like obsession with the body,
Mm,
on a crazy scale. I mean, it kind of got hammered into us, and he was really mean about
mm,
it. He would say really straight up mean things to people about losing weight and body size. And it takes time to undo all of that. Would you agree? Like, if you've been brainwash is a strong word, I know, but like when you've been kind of, even if you're around that and you don't think that you think that way, just hearing that. So I guess that does go back to what you were saying in terms of your approach of unfollowing and or not constantly looking at that type of philosophy and
mm.
embodying a little bit more of a kinder and inclusive philosophy. So
Yeah.
I guess I just wanted to mention that just because and even just LA culture in and of itself is very like extreme body, culture.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely takes time. I
Yeah.
think it doesn't
Big
happen
time.
like that. When we are all raised in a diet culture. Um, so I think, it's like for me, it's 28 years and I want to undo it in one day, for example. So yes, yes, yes. It takes time and it takes time to convince people that surround you
Yeah.
also to
Yeah.
what you think. And of course they doesn't have to think the same, but it's nice when they're like aware of what you think and they, for example, stop talking things that may ruin your progress
Yeah.
in your journey. So
Good point.
yeah.
Well, I'm excited, Zuza, to watch you continue doing what you're doing and to see, because you said you're only 28, right?
Yes, yes,
28.
Anton.
Oh, that's amazing. You're so young. You have so much incredible time ahead of you. Like the next 20 years, how your
Yes.
career and your profession is gonna, explode and keep building and growing. And so I'm really excited to, watch that. I think you're on a great path. And I really appreciate you taking time to meet with me, to speak with me today, and to share with our listeners. Is there anything else that you would like to add in closing? Is there any other tidbit of wisdom or advice? I mean, you've given us so many great things to think about, so I don't want to pressure you and make you feel like you have to say anything more. But is there anything else that you would like to share?
I would just like to share an advice so when the listener or someone that listens to this conversation, when you step on the mat next time, just I would say be mindful of your body and what your body really wants, and where is your body wanting and where is your ego wanting. So I think it's a great exercise, and I keep doing it every day because it's like you can never stop working with your ego. So
Great
yes,
point. Thank you. Thank you, Zuza, so
thank
much.
you.
I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you.
And
It was really great
thank you
talking.
so much. I agree. Same as well. And I look forward to I'll be in touch with you here soon.
Great.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Zuza. Thank you.
Thank you.